We are going to start this episode off with talking about the different characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, specifically the main group. We're going to start with Dutch Vanderland. He is the leader. He hates the government. He wants everybody to live outside of the government and independently. Almost everybody in the group he brought into the group, and a lot of them joined young, such as Arthur Morgan, who was only 14, and John Marston, who was only 12. Dutch was a dreamer. He had a dream about what was going to happen and how it was going to happen, and so he could not see past that. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Arthur Morgan. He is the main protagonist and playable character of Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I said before, he joined the Vanderland gang when he was only 14, after he lost his parents. His mom, we don't know how she died, but she died when he was really young, and his father was hung for larceny when he was around 9 to 12, and he was on his own after that. Arthur is extremely loyal to the gang, pretty much until the end. Eventually, Arthur is diagnosed with tuberculosis. He was forced to see the writing on the wall, so to say, because he was going to die, and he realized that Dutch was going crazy and was never going to let go of the outlaw lifestyle. The next character that we're going to be talking about is the second protagonist and also playable character of Red Dead Redemption 2. He joined Dutch when he was about to be hung for stealing. At around 12, Dutch saved him and then took him in and raised him. Eventually, he meets a girl named Abigail Roberts, and soon after has a son named Jack. He leaves the gang for around a year and leaves Abigail with Jack. Just basically becomes a deadbeat father. And when he comes back, he's welcomed pretty much with open arms. During chapter 1, he gets lost in a blizzard and gets attacked by wolves, which leaves him with permanent scars on his face. We're going to be talking about Abigail Roberts next. She's the wife of John Marston and the mother of Jack. She was orphaned as a child, and then she later earned her money as a saloon girl. If you know what a saloon girl is, then you know what a saloon girl is. She was introduced to the gang by Uncle, who is another character we will be talking about eventually, and she got pregnant with Jack soon afterward. She loves John and Jack, but she gets very angry over Jack being a deadbeat dad, which, who wouldn't be? I like her a lot. She is honestly one of the best girl characters in the game, in my opinion, because she's not whiny like some of the other ones, and she actually understands what's going on. The next character that we're going to be looking at is Bill Williamson. Bill Williamson isn't his actual name, it's his nickname. Bill's actual first name is Marion. Bill comes from Williamson. He changed his name due to embarrassment, and he served in the army during the American Indian Wars, where he was dishonorably discharged for attempted murder and quote-unquote deviancy, which led to violence and alcoholism on his part. He joined the gang around 6 years before the events of the game because he was saved by Dutch after Bill tried to rob Dutch, and now he's usually mocked by the rest of the gang because he has a short temper, he's small-minded, and he's also an alcoholic, even though he's still loyal to the group. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Charles Smith. He only joined the gang about 6 months before the game's events, and he was born to an African American father and a Native American mother, and he usually struggled to find a place to belong. He's really quiet. He doesn't like talking much, but he's honest and highly skilled at hunting and tracking. Not to mention, he's deadly whenever he's fighting. He's another one of my favorite characters. I love Charles. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Jose Matthews. He's the co-founder of the Vanderland gang. He met Dutch around 20 years before the events of the game because they tried to rob each other while going to Chicago, and then they became friends and started building a gang together. He is the advisor in the group. He advises people on what to do, mainly Dutch, but other people come to him for advice as well. He's also a con man. He married a woman named Bessie and tried to leave the life of an outlaw, but he drifted back into it, and when she died, he, quote-unquote, drank for a year, according to the dialogue in the game. Even when the gang changed from helping people to killing people to survive, he remained loyal, but understood what was happening. He tried to get everyone else in the group to leave as soon as they could, but nobody did. The next character we'll be talking about is Jack Marston. During Red Dead Redemption 2, he is only around 5 years old. He was born into the gang to John Marston and Abigail Roberts, and whenever he's a kid, he wants to spend more time with his father. He's just an average 5-year-old. His father doesn't really have anything to do with him or want anything to do with him, so he still tries to bond with John, but John doesn't bond with him until later in the game, and that's only because Jack got kidnapped and then saved. The next character we'll be talking about is Javier Escuela. He is a gunman in the Vanderland gang. He was born in Mexico and forced to flee after killing a high-ranking army official over a woman. He joined the gang about 4-ish years before the events of the game and has a strong connection to Dutch's ideologies. He's incredibly loyal to Dutch. The next character we're going to be talking about is Josiah Trelawney. He's a con man and also an associate of the Vanderland gang. He's allowed to move in and out of the gang as he likes because he's not officially a part of it. He orchestrates a lot of different heists with the gang and leaves as the gang begins to fall apart with Arthur's blessing. The next character we're going to be talking about is Karen Jones. She is a thief in the Vanderland gang. Even though she has a big heart, she's not afraid to speak her mind. She enjoys the outlaw lifestyle, but eventually her alcoholism worsens and she drinks herself to death. The next character we're going to be talking about is Kieran Duffy. He's a staple boy in the gang, and he was originally a member of the O'Driscoll gang, which is a rival gang for the Vanderlands. He was captured by Arthur and then forced to turn on his former gang and give up the location to a safe house of the O'Driscolls. Then during the raid on the safe house, Kieran saves Arthur's life by shooting an O'Driscoll who was about to kill Arthur. He becomes a member of Dutch's gang, even though most people in the gang don't like him. In Chapter 4, Kieran's captured by the O'Driscolls. First, he has his eyes gouged out, then he gets his tongue cut out, and then he gets decapitated, put on a horse, and his corpse gets sent back to Dutch's gang on horseback. Also, Kieran was a really sweet guy, and he's my favorite character. I was devastated whenever he died. I got spoiled for his death, so I knew that it was coming, but I didn't expect it to be that soon. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Lenny Summers. He is only 19. He's well educated. When he was 15, his father was killed by drunk people while walking home at night. Then Lenny stole a gun, shot his father's killers, and spent 3 years on the run. He would be 18 whenever he joins the Vanderlyn gang. He works really hard, and he has a problem with feeling like he hasn't done enough. Sadly, he's killed by Pinkertons. They're horrible. They're government agents. The next character we're going to be talking about is Leopold Strauss. He is the accountant of the Vanderlyn gang, and he grew up poor and suffering from health problems during his childhood. And at the age of 17, he was sent on a boat to America, where he spent many years as a scam artist. He joined the Vanderlyn gang for protection and is now responsible for the gang's money lending operation. He's known for being shifty and not feeling bad for anything he does, and he operates his loan sharking business through the gang. He only loans money to people who are extremely desperate, and eventually he gets kicked out by Arthur. Strauss is captured by the Pinkertons after the gang falls apart, and he dies in custody because he wouldn't say anything about the gang. He's loyal, but he's a horrible person. The next character that we will be talking about is Mary Beth Gaskell. She is a young pickpocket in the gang, and her mother died of typhoid, so she lived in an orphanage when she was young and then ran away from that orphanage to try to take care of herself. And then, despite her being kind and having good nature, she became a highly skilled pickpocket. She joined the Vanderlyn gang when she was being chased by several men that she pickpocketed. She likes reading and writing, and she had dreams of becoming a novelist when she was young. After the gang falls apart, she becomes a novelist under the pen name Leslie DuPont. She also keeps in contact with Tilly, who is another character that we will be talking about soon. The next character we will be talking about is Micah Bell. He's a gunman and hitman in the Vanderlyn gang. His father and grandfather, who were also named Micah Bell, he's the third, they were criminals, and his father was wanted for murder in 5 different counties. He hates his brother, and he joined the gang about 5-ish months before the game's events, after he saved Dutch's life. He approves of any of Dutch's decisions, even if they're horribly planned out. He's also a rat, traitor. I hate him. Spoiler alert, he dies. Thankfully, he dies. I hate him a lot. He is referred to as a slimy opportunist by the man who played him. The next character we're going to be talking about is Molly O'Shea. She's Dutch's lover and also a member of the gang. She was born in Dublin to a wealthy family and moved to America in search of excitement. She fell in love with Dutch, and once more in their relationship than Dutch is prepared to give. She considers herself better than everybody else in the gang, which makes everybody hate her, including me. She's whiny and annoying, but she eventually gets killed because she got drunk and then told everybody that she was the traitor when she wasn't, which is a stupid move. Everybody in the gang knows that if you are a traitor, you get put down. Anyway, the next character that we're going to be talking about is Simon Pearson. He's the cook and butcher of the Vanderlyn gang. His father and grandfather were both whale hunters, and he wanted to follow in their footsteps, but couldn't by the time he finished school. He was a part of the U.S. Navy. Whenever he moved out west, he had financial troubles, which led to Dutch finding him and inviting him into the gang. He's surprisingly upbeat for everything that happens, and he actually gets a happy ending. After the game, he owns and runs a general store and is married. The next character we're going to be talking about is Reverend Orville Swanson. He is a minister and a member of the Vanderlyn gang. Eventually, he began to use morphine to ease his pain before the events of the game, and had an addiction to alcohol and also morphine. Over time, he began to lose his sense of direction and religion and also self-esteem. Even though he saved Dutch's life, that's why he's still allowed in the gang, even though he does nothing. By the end of the game, he sobers up, and after the game, he becomes a preacher in New York. The next character we're going to be talking about is Sadie Adler. She's a gunwoman and bounty hunter. She used to have a farm with her husband Jake, but he was killed by the O'Driscolls. And during the events of the game, Arthur, Dutch, and Micah kill the O'Driscolls and rescue Sadie before Micah stupidly sets her house on fire. Then she decides to stay with the gang and vows revenge on the O'Driscolls. Eventually, she gets annoyed with her job preparing food because she didn't do that before. So Arthur takes her to town to run some errands. They're attacked by some raiders, and she kills all of them, which then leads her to be involved with some of the gang's heists. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Sean McGuire. He's also a gunman for the Vanderlyn gang. He's a young Irish thief, and he is a descendant of multiple criminals. He attempted to rob Dutch in an alleyway, unsuccessfully, and then he joined the Vanderlyn gang. He gets killed in Rhodes with a gunshot to the head. The next character we're going to be talking about is Susan Grimshaw. I love Miss Grimshaw. I love her very, very much. She's amazing. She's like the mom of the gang. She coordinates everything. If they did not have her around, everything would die, which is what happened after she got murdered. The next character that we're going to be talking about is Tilly Jackson. I love Tilly. She's really sweet, but she has a lot of trauma because she was kidnapped at the age of 12 by another gang, and after killing one of the gang members, she ran away from that gang, and then she was found by Dutch, who brought her into the gang and taught her how to read. She's not afraid to speak her mind. She genuinely does not care what other people think. She is very strong-minded, despite not being physically strong. After the events of the game, she falls in love and gets married and then has a baby. The last character that we're going to be talking about today is Uncle. I love Uncle. He is super funny, and he also is not afraid to speak his mind. He'll say literally whatever is on his mind at any given moment. He's one of the oldest members of the Vanderlyn gang. He's also an alcoholic. He claims that he had several wives and traveled a lot. He also claims to have been a talented gunslinger whenever he was younger, and says that he suffers from terminal lumbago. Lower back pain. That's what lumbago is. He leaves after the gang starts to fall apart. He gets a happy ending. He lives on a farm with John, Abigail, and Jack at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2. Sadly, in the first game, the second game's a prequel, but the first game, Uncle dies. And that was all of the main characters. The first chapter takes place in the very cold mountains in a little abandoned town named Coulter. In Coulter, the gang takes shelter from a blizzard after they were getting chased by Pinkertons because of a heist gone wrong. In Coulter, you have two missions. One is with Charles, and that's just to go hunting. And then there's another mission where you find and capture Kieran. I love Kieran very, very much. He is adorable. After you complete those two missions, then you go to Horseshoe Overlook. And while you're going to Horseshoe Overlook, Arthur breaks the wagon wheel, like the idiot he is. But it's okay. We all love Arthur here. You play as Arthur. So, in Horseshoe Overlook, you have a bunch of different missions. One of them is to go and collect debts for Strauss. Another is to calm down Lenny after Micah gets put in jail. Another is going to save Sean from bounty hunters. But at the end of the chapter, there's a shootout in this town called Valentine, which is near Horseshoe Overlook, and then they have to move. So chapter 3, it's near Rhodes, and Rhodes is a small town that sucks because everybody there is rude and also racist. So I like going there and just, stab. Because the people there suck. There are two feuding families, the Braithwaites and the Greys. Both families think that the other stole from them generations ago. Eventually, the Vanderland gang helps both the Braithwaites and the Greys get back at each other so they can rob them blind. But the Braithwaites and Greys find out that the Vanderland gang are trying to rob them both, and the Greys shoot Sean and start a shootout in Rhodes. After that, we find out that Jack was kidnapped. Dutch and most of the other men in the gang go to the Braithwaites' house, kill everybody there, and burn it down. And Dutch interrogates the mother of all of them, and she eventually gives up where Jack is, but she says he's either in Saint Denis or he is on a boat going to Italy. So that brings us into chapter 4. Chapter 4 is in Shady Belle, which is an old plantation house, like really, really old, that the gang took over. It's a huge property, and it's in the swamp. There's alligators everywhere. Eventually, they go into Saint Denis and meet this guy named Angelo Bronte, and he was the one who received Jack, and Jack was living his best life there. He got to eat spaghetti, and he had a bunch of toys. Bronte was acting as a father to Jack for some reason. Anyway, they get Jack back, and they're invited by Bronte to a huge party that we'll get to in a minute. But whenever they get Jack back to camp, they have their own little party, and Kieran gets taken without anybody realizing because everyone's drunk. A little while after that, Kieran is sent back into camp headless because they ripped his eyes out, cut his tongue out, and decapitated him, and then put him on a horse with his head in his hands. Before Kieran comes back into camp without a head, they go to the party. Angelo Bronte gives them a tip about a post office where you can buy trolley tickets, and he said that there would be a lot of money, but there wasn't, and it was a setup. And so after that, Dutch goes and gets Tay and then drowns him and lets an alligator eat him. This marks like a big turning point in his cuckoo craziness. He's already going crazy, but now he's really going crazy. There are a couple other things that happen, but they're not really of much significance until the end of the chapter. They rob the Saint Denis bank. Pinkertons are there. They got tipped off, presumably by Micah, and they got Hosea, killed him, and then as everyone was fleeing, Lenny gets shot in the face by Pinkertons. So Lenny and Hosea die, and everybody else who's alive runs. After that, they get on a boat, and it crashes, and then they land on Guarma. Guarma is a really short chapter and only has 4 or 5 missions that you have to do, but Dutch kills an old lady, straight up strangles her and snaps her neck in front of Arthur. Eventually they got off the island and they get back to the rest of the gang who have moved, and Bill is the last one to get back. And Bill's like, I asked literally everybody where you guys were. And then the Pinkertons arrive outside of their new camp. And they're like, everyone, Bill? Really? Everyone? And then there's another shootout with the Pinkertons. And then the Pinkertons back off. And then they move again to Beaver Hollow, which is Murphy Brood country. That's another gang. They regularly just kill people in very gruesome and gross ways. Anyway, you take over one of their camps and kill everybody in there. That leads into Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is where everything starts to break down. A majority of the camp leaves. Dutch, who has been going crazy this whole time since Hosea died, he's going like cuckoo crazy. You could see it a little bit in the other chapters, but in Chapter 6, it really ramps up. He's just reckless to be reckless and kills people to kill people. Psychopath energy. After the train, John comes back and he's like, you left me, Dutch. And Dutch was like, I didn't have a choice. Abigail got taken while they were doing the train heist. The Pinkertons attacked and they took Abigail. So this is after Arthur and Sadie save Abigail that John comes back. Arthur got TB in Chapter 2 and he's dying of TB. The Pinkertons attack again after that whole thing, and Arthur revealing that Micah is the rat. Also, at the beginning of this chapter, Molly says that she ratted on everybody, and then she gets shot by Miss Grimshaw. And right before the Pinkertons attack for the second time, Micah kills Miss Grimshaw. I hate that rat. I hate him so much. Your ending branches depending on if you help John escape or go back for the money, and if you have high honor, low honor, or neutral honor. Having neutral honor is a really hard thing to do, and I haven't seen the ending for that, so I'm just going to talk about high honor. For high honor, I went and helped John, and I had high honor. So I had a face-off with Micah. I beat him to a bloody pulp, and then Arthur lost, and he was going to shoot Micah, but Dutch stepped on Arthur's hand that was holding the gun. And he was like, it's over, son. It's over. And then Arthur is like, he's a rat, Dutch. He's a rat. You know it, and I know it. And then Dutch walks away, with Micah trying to get him to come with him. Once both of them leave, Arthur crawls to a point at the rocks, because they're on a mountain. He faces east, and he sees the rising sun and a deer because of high honor. And then he dies. And not even 5 minutes later, you're playing as John and milking a cow in the epilogue. Garbage. Not the game. The emotional whiplash. I liked playing as John. I liked the epilogue. It's a surprisingly good epilogue. Well, also, you get to kill Micah in the epilogue. So, yay. After you kill Micah, John and Abigail get married, and they don't really have their happily ever after. Like, it looks like they do, but they don't. The Pinkertons track down John and then make them do his dirty work, and at the end of the first game, they kill him. So he has his happy ending for a couple years. Now, here are my final thoughts on the game. Okay, love this game. I've been playing it nonstop for the past month. I hope there's a third one. I've seen clips of the first game and I want to play it now. But I'm trying to 100% the second game, so I got it. 100% the second game, and then go to the first and 100% that. That's about how much time we have for this episode. But I will see all of you on the next one, partner. Bye!